All right, guys, I want to welcome you back to the eHunter podcast. Before we get started on today's podcast, I wanted to take a few minutes and just kind of talk about what's going on with eHunter a little bit. We're a quarter of the way through 2022, which is absolutely crazy. I can't believe how fast time is going, but it's been a good start to the year. Been a lot of fun. Been able to have a lot of fun podcasts and have spent a lot of time on our YouTube channel. So just really quickly wanted to put in a plug for our YouTube page. We're putting up a video, I wouldn't say almost every day. We're about 3 videos a week is what we're doing right now. Those include our Monday morning quick tip, which every Monday morning it's a quick video. It's only lasting about maybe 2 or 3 minutes at the most. And then every Saturday we have our podcasts that come out. So check those out. Obviously, if you're watching this and listening to this, you are checking them out, and I appreciate that. We've got a few things that we got coming up here in the near future that I wanted to talk about as well. Well, first and foremost, if anybody's interested in becoming a writer for eHunter, please reach out to Seth or myself. We would love to talk about the incentive program and how we can get you guys on and writing articles for eHunter, especially news articles. But if you're interested in writing other articles, we'd love to hear from you and some of your ideas. So also looking at doing some more giveaways, as well as some kind of giveaways and incentivization, if that's even a word, around subscribing to YouTube pages and our YouTube page and podcast and things like that. So for those of you guys that are dedicated listeners to the eHunter podcast, we just want to tell you thank you. We appreciate you and your support for us here at eHunter. We couldn't do this without you. And so we love the feedback that everybody's giving us. We love the communication and the relationships that we are building. So on today's podcast, I have Dylan with OnX Maps. OnX Maps is my mapping source. I know we've talked about several different ones on this podcast, but OnX is kind of my way to go. It's what I've used for quite some time, and I absolutely love it. And so excited to talk to Dylan about some of the new changes, kind of what separates them from the rest, and then ask a few questions that have been sent in by you all. So anyways, appreciate you guys. If you guys have any questions for me at all, or Seth, please let us know. Just shoot us an email or reach out to us on social media. We'd be happy to answer any of those questions that you have. So, all right, guys. Well, we'll jump right into this podcast. But again, appreciate you, and let's get Dylan on the line. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the eHunter podcast. Got another great podcast for you guys today with a company that I'm a huge fan of. I have used this basically since they started. I absolutely love it's OnX Maps, and so I love OnX Maps. I love what their company has produced, and not gonna lie, they've saved me many times on the mountains, have helped me harvest or at least find animals that I've harvested. Just an amazing tool. So on the podcast today, I have Dylan with OnX Maps. Dylan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's a sunny Friday afternoon, and yeah, doing good. Looking forward to spring and bear opening and all sorts of good stuff.
And he's got this amazing mule deer behind us. So we kind of talked a little, I brought it up before we hit record, but dude, you got to kind of give me some details on that. That thing's a beast.
Yeah, no, it's that's one of my best bucks for sure. And honestly, I think I was pretty young when I shot that buck. I think I was 17 or so, 16,
no way.
17. The first buck that I was hunting with my dad, in the sense like we drove out together and whatever, but he dropped me off. And quick story on that buck, actually, I had caught a super quick glimpse of him about a week prior. I was sitting up on a knob glassing, and it was last light, and I saw a couple deer kind of probably 500-600 yards away cruising through a bottom. Pulled out the spotter, and I just caught a glimpse of him, just enough to see he had a couple extras, and was like, ooh, that looks like a good deer. I actually tried to make a play on him that night before it got dark in like 10 minutes. Didn't make it happen. And I spent every evening after work, at the time I was working for my parents, and every evening after work sitting up glassing and trying to re-find him, and just he vanished. I had no idea where he went, if he was just cruising through or what. And one morning, I think it was a Saturday morning, my dad dropped me off, and it had snowed the night before, and started to walk out to a point to sit down and start glassing. And I peeked up over a rise, and he was bedded in the wide open flat, like just all you could see is snow, and then 2 deer bedded, him and 1 doe. And I threw up the binos and could tell it was him just based on a couple extras that I caught from the week prior. And yeah, he was like 200 yards when I saw him, and the rest is history. But yeah, that was a cool one that will stick out for quite a while. And kind of the first animal that I was like by myself technically and made it happen. So that was kind of an extra cool factor.
And it's 17, dude. You shoot an animal like that's almost like a letdown, because it's hard to beat that for the rest of your hunting life. You shoot something like that at 17, man, it's gonna be hard to compete with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, to date, that is my best buck. Like I've shot a few others that are, real close, like, score wise, if you want to look at it that way, but just different, some like a super wide, heavy 3x3, just different type of deer or whatever. But yeah. That one was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's so unique. Just has just different points and places that you don't normally see. That on that main beam coming out there. He's just got a lot of cool stuff. If you guys aren't watching on YouTube, you guys need to watch on YouTube, because this is a pretty sweet. It's funny. I do all these podcasts, Dylan, and I start looking around what everybody has in their background to see what they've harvested, and then we start talking about that and go down rabbit holes before we ever even talk about what we're supposed to. So it's awesome.
Love it.
So Dylan, tell us a little bit, tell everybody kind of what you do at OnX, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. So I have been with OnX for about 7 years now. I actually started out in customer service, and at the time I was kind of like one of 2 people in customer service. So some tremendous growth, both with customer base and inside the company since then. I did a couple years in customer service. Excuse me. And then started working on the marketing side of things. And to date, I work with and manage kind of all of our Western big game marketing. So kind of my main focal point is working with our ambassadors, from like the influencers we work with all the way up to like the TV personalities, managing those relationships and so on and so forth. That's a huge part of it. And then just day-to-day Western big game focused marketing is what I do.
Yeah, that's a fun gig. I'm very jealous of your gig. I think it'd be fun. I mean, one, just to work in this field, and I love doing this podcast, but it's not my day job, and so I'm very jealous of you guys that get to do this. I'm sure you get to hang out and talk with a lot of cool people. You're wearing a Meat Eater shirt, so I'm sure old Steven, you probably get to chat with him from time to time. He's a pretty cool dude. So yeah,
no, it is really cool. And especially growing up, you watch like, Eastman's and just all sorts of the ambassadors that I work with today. And I've hunted with some of them, you watch all these people on TV and YouTube and stuff, and then to meet them and then, share hunting camp with them and stuff like that. It is super cool and very humbling.
That's awesome. Well, OnX, it's been around for a while now. Just a really solid platform, kind of like I said in the beginning. I've used OnX pretty much since you guys' inception. I was never really a fan of the old school GPSs. I had an old Garmin Rhino or something like that I use. And then once you guys' stuff in fact, I think I ended up getting OnX Maps on that is what I first started with. And then once it came to the the phone platform, that was a game changer for me. So most everybody I think is familiar with OnX. If you're not, definitely reach out. We can fill you guys in a little bit more on that. But I think today some of our conversations are going to be around some of our questions that our listeners have sent in, our readers have sent in, just kind of some of the stuff that's going on now at OnX, and hopefully you can kind of help answer some of this stuff. So let's jump into it. Most of our listeners are Western folks. We are starting to get several of the Eastern or even Midwestern hunters start to listen to our podcast and reach out with questions and things like that. And so I really kind of wanted to ask you, as far as OnX goes, are you guys really focused on Western hunting, or are you guys starting to spread out across the entire country?
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely a mix at this point. And OnX was founded in Montana. Western big game was the focal point. And for, a handful of years, that was kind of our bread and butter was Western big game. We still definitely that's my job is like the Western big game side of things. We also have somebody just like me, but for whitetail and for upland and for, turkey, like, and some of those, a lot of those do stretch into the Midwest and East and South. And, we have all 50 states in the map. And with that, we're doing a lot of things that are tailored specifically for the whitetail hunter, for the hunter that is hunting the same, at 15 to 30 acres and, their tree stands, and they want to manage food plots and so on and so forth. So to answer your question, like, we are definitely from East to West Coast. We have folks that are, prioritizing and working on, again, the whitetail stuff, the more Eastern focused. And then still to this day, we have folks prioritizing and working solely on the Western stuff. So, it's not, I wouldn't say we are transitioning like, okay, yeah, we've been Western big game for a while, and now we're going to just put that on pause and go focus on that. Like, we've hired some new folks and so on and so forth to really make sure that we can cover everything and, make sure that everybody, whether you live in, the peaks in Colorado or, Illinois is chasing whitetail, like we'll have you covered.
It's funny because I got a really good buddy that lives out in Tennessee, and I kind of give him a hard time because he's a huge turkey hunter and he hunts on his own land. But I think he's an ambassador for OnX as well. And it cracks me up because he uses OnX so much on this little plot of land. I'm like, man, what can you possibly use OnX for on your itty bitty little piece of land? And here I am hunting the Western United States, where I'm hunting thousands and thousands, millions of acres that I'm hunting. And it's funny because he'll pull out his phone and he'll show me like how he strategizes off of OnX to hunt turkeys. It's an amazing thing to see. And so to your point, you guys are starting to do, or you guys have been doing a lot of cool stuff for those kind of guys out there hunting turkeys and whitetails.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think there for quite a while, and even to this day, some people are like, oh, OnX, it's a Western big game app for finding public land. Like, yeah, a lot of people download it and use it for that purpose. But, a lot of people are also using it to get access on private or to hunt that same 40 acres more efficiently and effectively. And like, if I go to Eastern Montana here in a few weeks for, just a trip back home and to go get after some turkeys for opener, like, even if I can get permission, I can see the names on there. I can assure the landowner, hey, I know where your boundaries are. Like, I won't be upsetting your neighbors because I have this. Like, I've had that happen several times where, you ask somebody to antelope hunt or just access through their place to public or something. And they're like, man, I really would let you, I want to let you, but my neighbor, called me up last year because we had somebody who crossed their fence and shot a deer, whatever it looked like. And it's like, hey, like, just so you know, like, if it changes something, like, this is exactly where I am on the map, and I can see and zoom in and be like, oh yeah, your northeast section, or your northeast corner over there, that, there's looks like a big oak tree there. I can see right where that's at. Their mind's blown and they're like, oh yeah, go have at it. So, I can get permission before I go over there. And even if I'm not able to go like roost birds that night, if I get up in the morning and go hear a turkey gobble, I can just look at the app and be like, okay, based on the direction and how far I think that turkey is, like, they're probably roosted in these trees here and set up and stuff. So, I use it 99% of the time for Western big game and, like you said, hunting hundreds of thousands of acres and finding cool access points and everything. But, it really has use cases for a lot of different things.
And I even use it for personal. Like, I bought some property here in Utah, and I love, that's probably my favorite thing about the mapping system is the public and private, land boundaries and things like that. And I'll use it for my own personal, like, go look at my property and see where those lines are at. And I'm amazed at how accurate OnX is with their dividing lines between public and private, or even between private and private. I mean, it really is absolutely amazing. And the applications of OnX are I mean, it's limitless, honestly.
For sure. Like, heck, the other day I was actually, so we're in a new house now, and last year before winter hit, we put in sod around our house for where our yard is. And I'm like, man, I should probably fertilize that before it gets too hot. I'm like, I have not fertilized this yard. I have no idea how much I'm going to need. Like, I could go just guess. But I used it, just the other day to use the area shape tool and like trace my yard and see how many acres it is. And, it's like, okay, now I have a really good start to go to Home Depot and buy some lawn fertilizer.
That's
Or
wild.
as where it's like a newer property, and I had it all laid out where like, here's where I want the fence, and here's where
Mm-hmm.
my shop in the future is going to go. And like, I have it all drawn out on the map. And yeah, there's just so many use cases that you don't really think of until you get in there.
Yeah. That's hilarious, dude. Haven't even thought about using that, to use like, yeah, the area space, or even like the line distance, just, I mean, even to do that, to like say, yeah, here's how far back I want my shop. And I'm building a house here pretty soon. I'm gonna have to steal some of that and use it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's helpful for sure.
Well, and not to hate on the Eastern guys, or not to go away from the Eastern guys. 'Cause I love you guys, and I've got a lot of good friends out there. But yeah, like kind of like what you said, 99% of my usage of OnX is on Western big game hunting. It's ridiculous. If I was to show you my map, there's so many waypoints, there's so many line or tracks and things like that. So I kind of want to focus a little bit on Western hunting, where you work at OnX and the ins and outs of it. I probably don't even hit the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what I can do with it, and I feel like I do. But I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit as far as like, what are some of the Western EScouting tips? Like when people ask you, and I'm sure you get asked at expos, I'm sure you get asked from your ambassadors, like what are some of those Western big game hunting EScouting tips that you would give to our listeners, or to me if I was asking you?
For sure. No, we get that all the time, and it's a great question, and it really depends, who you're asking and what in particular. It's like, okay, are you rifle hunting, mule deer? Are you elk hunting, archery? There's so many nuances to it. One thing I would say before I kind of dive in on like a few things personally that I use and look for is, if anybody is really looking on like an in-depth course or more in-depth information about e-scouting, if you go to our YouTube, we have, we've had a lot of our ambassadors do like, hey, do an archery e-scouting 4-part series, or let's do a rifle e-scout series with the Hushin guys, or what that looks like. So there's a lot of different takes on it. There's many different ways to skin a cat there and be effective. My big thing with e-scouting is I like to stay mobile, and really it's with everything like archery, elk hunting, rifle, mule deer hunting. I like to stay mobile and move and not like overcommit. It's something that like one of our ambassadors, good friend Dan Staten with Elk Shape, preaches all the time. It's like, don't overcommit. And I've done that before. I've hiked in and bivvied in, 6-7 miles before, and then there's no elk there. But I've put all the time and effort into finding this one little spot on the map and bringing all my gear in here and setting up a bivvy camp. Like, now I feel obligated to stay and grind it out in that area.
Right.
There's no elk there. So what are you doing? And these are all things like that I've learned through many years of trial and error, and, doing that and committing 4 or 5 days to one particular spot and there's no elk. So, I can walk around, I can put on as many miles and I can bugle as much until my heart's desired. But if there's no elk there to respond, I can't fill my elk tag. And so anymore, it's like, I really have taken, again, what Dan preaches there and applied that. And it's been really successful. It's like, stay mobile. And in doing so, the e-scouting portion is huge, because it's like, hey, here's my number one area, and I'm going to e-scout that. Like, maybe I'll be looking in 3D for ridges if I'm rifle mule deer hunting, where I can, effectively hike through all this country, kind of mostly staying on ridge tops, and then mark waypoints for different potential glassing spots. So like, I'm in 3D, I'm looking at topo, I'm finding the ridges, and what I'll do is I'll actually mark the line tool for like a potential track. And then when I'm doing it, I'll turn on my tracker, eventually delete the line that I had there, just because, when you're hiking, things change a little bit, routes change.
Right.
But I started doing that the last couple of years, honestly. And even in spots that for mule deer, I'm like, man, I've hunted this spot like 6 years in a row. Like, I know it. Like, I know where there's good glassing points, right? So I don't need to e-scout it.
Right.
Well, I started e-scouting those areas and actually putting in like the effort ahead of time, even though I thought that I knew that area super well. And when I went out there, like, that alone is the reason that I killed probably my second biggest buck ever 2 years ago, because of the e-scouting. And I started looking at it from a different perspective. And another really cool thing, Cody Rich, another ambassador of ours, will say is like, everybody always looks at the map north up. We're all trained to do that, and you think you understand a place. Like, completely revert it. Look at it, facing south, or looking at it facing, northeast or whatever, and really look at it in 3D, and you'll start to pick out things that, your mind's so trained to looking at things north up, and you think you have looked things through enough. But when you really start orienting the map, you're forced to look at things from a different perspective, quite in reality. And so I was doing that and finding different ridges, ways to hike through more country, be more effective, and different glassing points along the way. So again, I would use a line tool, follow ridge tops, and either do like through hunts, like from I'll be dropped off here and then my dad can pick me up here, or like big loop hunts. I'm not like walking out and then wasting that, if I'm hiking out 3 miles and hiking back 3 miles, like, yeah, there's a chance you might run into something different on the way back that moved in, but I want to be mostly effective. Yeah, totally. And so, I was marked all of those out, potential hikes. And then I went in with a more fine-tooth comb and was like, hey, here's a high point. From here, I'm going to drop a waypoint, and I'll be able to glass everything to the southeast. And then if I move over on the other side of the ridge, I'll be able to drop a waypoint and glass everything to the northwest, or whatever that looks like. Just to make sure I was glassing into every little pocket along the way. And yeah, it worked out. Like, I was like 4 miles into a 6-mile loop 2 years ago, and stopped in one of my glassing waypoints that I had marked. And I've been in that country. I've hiked past that area multiple times, but because I didn't e-scout it the way that I did, I never really sat down and gave that area the attention it deserved, and glassed up a doe and kind of sat on her for, I think, 15, 20 minutes. And all of a sudden the buck stood up. And yeah, I would strongly suggest e-scouting, whether it's whitetail country where you're like, man, it's my own 50 acres. I know the property. Why do I need to e-scout it? I would strongly suggest that. It helped me a ton.
It's funny that you say that, because I almost had that exact same thing happen this past year. So I've got an area that I've hunted my entire life. I've hunted cow elk, I've hunted bull elk, I've hunted mule deer. And I kind of the same thing. I'm like, I know this area like the back of my hand. I tell people that all the time. I know it like the back of my hand. It's my backyard, kind of a thing. And this last summer, so I guess it would have been like last June, I really started getting heavy into just e-scouting that area. And I can't tell you how many spots that I found e-scouting. I'm like, wow, I've never even really touched this area. And so I spent a lot of my last fall going out and glassing and hiking, and man, I found a whole new world within an area that I thought I knew well just by e-scouting. And I think that's a great testament to most people. I mean, it's great if it's an area that you don't know, or it's an area you've hunted once and you're trying to learn more. I mean, it's a case in point, the same thing. But even if it's an area that you do know very well, it definitely works well. And I love, by the way, that you're telling like your own personal stories. I mean, you're a great salesman for OnX, and you're just telling your own personal stories. So
yeah, no, it's relatable for sure. And I've worked at OnX for 7 years. I've used OnX for 10 years or more. And 2 years ago, it was like an aha moment of I still wasn't utilizing it to its full potential and e-scouting the area, because I was like, I know it. Like, I've been there. I know where I can hunt. I know where the boundaries are. I know where some good glassing points are. I don't need to e-scout it. Like, yeah, I do. I did need to e-scout it. And there's still, to this day, like, there's still some hikes that I planned out even 2 years ago on that property, that area, that I still haven't done to this day. Like, there's so many new things that you can try and do. And two, like, I've done the same thing with archery elk, or just elk hunting in general. I don't need to e-scout it. I know there's some wallows down here, and if a bull bugles on that side, I typically know what their bedding looks like, because I've been through there. Like, I've found other wallows that I didn't know existed because I hadn't walked by them. And you'll even have those moments where you're like, dang it, like, that bull, I was standing up here and a bull bugled down there, and he bugled a few more times, and I, like, now knowing that there's a wallow down there, the way the wind and the thermals were going, I probably could have snuck down because he was probably wallowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you don't know what you don't know. So it never hurts to EScout. But, kind of to circle back to the beginning of that question, I know I started talking about like being mobile and then transitioned a little bit into, how I EScout for mule deer, but being mobile, whether it's mule deer or archery elk, those are kind of my two big things. Like archery hunting, I really focus on elk. Rifle season, I focus on mule deer generally.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like archery elk hunting, I will find the key area I want to hunt, EScout that, but then I will move over and be like, okay, what's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? And not be afraid to pull the plug, get back in the pickup and drive,
Mm-hmm.
Drive a couple hours through the night, or drive to the other side of the unit, or, road bugle your way through a couple canyons just to see if anything's talking. And really just have those plans, because if plan A doesn't work, you can sit there in your pickup, or you can sit there and be like, man, where should I go? Like, okay, let me pull out the map. Okay, I could go here, I could go there. But if I've already done the homework and been like, okay, if this doesn't work, it's most efficient for me to go to this spot and check that.
Mm-hmm.
And if that doesn't work, it's most efficient for me to go to this spot and actually make a plan. Like, it's just so much better than sitting on the side of a mountain road in your pickup, looking at a map at, 10 at night going, where should I go tomorrow? It's like, I've already got that planned out. I'm going to plan B and then plan C. And in doing so, it just requires you to EScout it and actually make a plan for when you get to plan B and what that looks like.
Yeah, it's such a more efficient way to hunt. That's what I always tell people. You can save yourself boot tracks. You can save yourself, miles on. You can save yourself so much, and you can make yourself more effective because you have prepared. And to your point, like you're saying, it worked for mule deer, it works for archery elk. I've used it for pronghorn. I would go through and I would find, okay, here's some public land that I know is in my unit, so I can hunt all that area. Here's a water source. Here's a water source. Here's a water source. This is one I feel like is going to be the first and the best. So I'm going to go to this one. If that one doesn't work out, I'm off to this one. And so, yeah, to your point, I have, A, B, C, and D, or plan A, B, and C, and D, so that I'm very efficient. I'm not wasting that time. And, a couple of years ago, I was that person. I hate to even admit it, that I was, it wasn't 10 o'clock at night. It was 12 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, well, crap, I've hit all my spots. Now where am I going to go? Now what am I going to do? And I'm wasting really precious time during a hunt when I should be like hiking to a certain point of, where I've already e-scouted, so I had wasted a lot of time. It's not until like the last couple of years I realized, man, I can do a lot of this work beforehand when it's cold outside and miserable outside, or, it's not during the season and I can't be out there or whatever. I can be on my computer, I can be on my phone, I can be looking at all these spots and saving myself a lot of work and helping myself be a more efficient hunter.
For sure. And it's almost like make a playbook and then run it. Like,
yeah,
you can, my biggest problem is if I'm thinking about spots to go in the field, I constantly contradict myself or talk myself out of it. Or like, I'll start hiking a certain direction and be like, no, I want to go back this way. So It's like if I plan it out ahead of time, and obviously things change, like, you might get to your plan A and it's full of people, and you just abort before you even try plan A.
Mm-hmm.
But it helps me personally just to know, like, no, like, this was my next plan. And unless there's a good reason not to do that, I'm going to go do that. And then I get less indecisive and it's like, okay, I'm going to hike out, go hunt that, and not sit there for an hour being like, man, I don't know, maybe I do drop into the bottom of this hole. Maybe there's some elk down there that's not talking,
Yeah.
There's lots of different ways to do it, but I found that helps quite a bit, and e-scouting is a huge part of it.
I appreciate that. And I mean, yes, we are talking about OnX, and I don't want to say like selling it, but it really is. It's honestly become like seriously one of the best tools. When people ask me like, what tool would you recommend, any tool for hunting? I mean, obviously you got to have your weapon and things like that, but if before I spend money on camo, before I spend money on really anything else, I feel like this tool is what you spend your money on first and foremost, because it's what's going to help you be the most efficient and effective hunter. So I appreciate that. And again, most of our listeners are from the West. They are Western big game hunters. And so I appreciate just a few little insights. Like I said, I mean, I'm sure we could spend hours talking about all the different tools, and it is very situational too. You know, if you're an early season archery deer hunter, or if you're a late season rifle hunter, I mean, it's going to differ depending on what you're hunting. But I love that. I love that being mobile too, and having a lot of plans. By the way, I'm taking notes over here. So when you see me kind of like looking down here, I'm a geek, and so I like to take notes and for my own personal hunting adventures.
Love it.
So another question that we had come in, one of our listeners, they are, a long-term OnX hunter user. They love it, and they love all the new stuff that comes out with it. You know, when 3D came out, that was one thing that they mentioned that they really loved. But they did kind of ask, like, for 2022, what are you guys working on? What's going on over there at OnX?
For sure. We get that one a lot as well. People are excited to know what the next big thing is.
Yeah, we're geeks.
I totally get it, because I am too. There's definitely a few things in the works that I can't speak to yet, but a couple things I can. The 3D. So obviously on the desktop right now, it's a little bit more fully functioning, in the sense you can turn layers on and off, you can mark waypoints, and just full functionality on the desktop. We are working out a few minor last tweaks on the phone, and then that will have like a very more robust 3D feature as well. So actually Android is out, or going to be out very, very soon, and then iOS will start working on that shortly after. So that's going to be a big one, because right now you can use 3D on the phone, but it's not as robust of a feature as it is on the desktop. Most of the time I'm using 3D on the desktop anyways, for EScouting purpose and so on and so forth. But yeah, some really cool things with that. Also, I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about this one, but I'm going to. So in the sense of 3D, we're working on the ability to kind of exaggerate that out a little bit. So for 3D, in the West, it really makes sense in the mountainous areas. You might look at something, even in Eastern Montana, where you look at it in real life, it's really craggy and there's some topography there.
Yeah.
You look at 3D and you're kind of like, like it's not super helpful, just because it doesn't accurately portray the land. And so we're working on some capabilities to be able to exaggerate those a little bit. So whether you're, hunting in areas that isn't, these steep mountain peaks where 3D is really effective, or if you're whitetail hunting and you're looking for, a depression to get into your tree stand better, or something like a route, you can, shortly exaggerate those features and kind of bring that to life. And that one might be a little bit hard to comprehend without seeing it. I've seen it, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3D, lots of cool new stuff coming there.
Dude, that's good. So the guy that asked this question, you know who you are. So you're gonna love this, because that was kind of his exact point. Was I love the 3D and I can use it on my computer, and honestly, for the most part, we're probably still gonna continue to use it on our computer. Just it's bigger, it's easier to see, that whatnot. But his point was, when is the phone gonna look a little bit better? I think he's an iPhone user. I believe, and so that's one you hit the nail on the head right there with him. So, and I'm sure,
and it wasn't even staged.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't, by the way. That was not staged. Well, that's exciting, and yeah, we're all geeks, and so we always like to know kind of what's new and what's coming out with some of our favorite hunting tools. So
a couple more, and there's so many things in the work in the backlog. But a couple more real quick. So as of right now, sharing waypoints, I can send you a waypoint, I can send you a line, a track, or whatever, kind of as an individual file. We are working on some foldering structures and the ability to share, maybe it's like, hey, here's all my waypoints for this unit's archery elk hunt, and we're going to hunt that unit together. So instead of like, hey, here's these 10 waypoints, and I individually send you the waypoints and they populate in your app, like maybe I put those in a folder and share the folder with you, that type of stuff. So just really kind of expanding on that sharing capability. I use it a lot for if I'm hunting solo, I will send my wife a waypoint or a few waypoints, like, hey, generally here's where I'm going to go, just in case something happened, nobody could get a hold of me. Somebody's got a starting point with coordinates. So it's like I can do that, or I can send like, the 10 possible spots I'm going to go with them numbered and named and everything, and then just send all of that to her and be like, hey, here's here's kind of my hunt plan if
Mm-hmm.
you don't hear from me.
Oh,
So yeah, that one's pretty cool too. And again, there's a lot of stuff, some really cool kind of groundbreaking things that I definitely can't talk about. So
oh
I'll
man.
save myself some trouble there.
Actually, I kind of
But
like
yeah,
that
some
because
cool stuff.
that means you're gonna have to get on another podcast with me. So I'm okay with that once you're able to talk about those things.
Perfect.
Any changes to layers at all? I mean, can you tease me a little bit with that?
For sure. So we've actually launched a couple relatively recently. So
Uh-huh.
we are doing some big things with application season now, particularly with our elite membership, which I know we'll get into in a little bit. I'm sure that the difference and what that entails. But
Yeah.
essentially with the elite membership, we've teamed up with some heavy hitters in the industry. If you're an elite member for OnX, you get a free digital membership to Hunt and Fool, where you can read their e-magazine, see cost calculator for hunts, previous tag holder list, all sorts of things there. You get free access to Top Ruts draw odds for the West, and then now free access to Hunt Reminder service. So it'll remind you when application seasons are open, when they're closing, final day, final hour, that type of thing, so you never miss a deadline. On top of that, what we've done in the app is we've actually created a Western application research folder. So just if you go into the layers, you'll have your state layers, your hunt layers, so on and so forth. And right now there's a Western application research folder. And there's some layers in that. Some of those are layers that we've had previously, for example, the roadless areas, historic wildfires, wilderness areas, etc. But we've actually worked on curating a few new layers, some new data in there. So one of those is US drought data. So it'll show you what the current drought conditions are throughout the US. If that changes your mind for, maybe I'm going to apply for that unit, or maybe I'm not because it's in severe drought or was last year. So we've got that one. And then another new one is the slope angle layer. So if you turn that on, it will kind of highlight the slope features on the map. And so you can see man, that unit is incredibly steep. And, maybe I'm not in the best shape, or maybe I had, knee surgery this year or something, and I'm looking for more mild terrain. You can use that slope angle layer to really make those steep areas and not so steep areas pop on the map. We've worked with Boone and Crockett for quite a while, but we took a little bit of a more deep dive approach with those, in particular for that Western application research folder and the layers within it. So that's a few of the new ones.
Dang, that's huge. I didn't even know about some of those. I have started using some of them, like the drought one, because here in Utah we've had some serious drought over the last decade, but even over just the last 5 years. And so yeah, when you guys came out with that, that's a tool that I've definitely been using. I had no idea about the Hunt and Fool stuff, or this application stuff. That's huge, man. That's a huge benefit to people that
Yep.
do the elite package. So, and actually, let's just kind of jump into that. So that's only for the people that have the elite package, right?
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, that's a huge value add. I think it's something like $210 worth of value.
Wow.
For the elite membership, which is $99.99 a year. So, you're saving over $100 there, and really getting everything you need for application season. And that was our intent. We've had really good relationships with those companies for quite a while. Obviously we are focused on mapping, and those guys' expertise is focusing on application and the research and data that goes into it. So it's a perfect fit. It totally makes sense for us, for our customers. Everybody benefits from that relationship with those guys. So yeah, if you're not utilizing that, I would say if you're applying for even in-state stuff and not utilizing that, you're definitely missing out.
And I'm a Hunt and Fool fan, because Hunt and Fool is right here. We're like 30 minutes apart from where I live and where their headquarters are at. Know the guys very well, so that's awesome. And so for those of our listeners that don't know Hunt and Fool, definitely check them out. They're awesome guys. Do a lot. I mean, I consider myself a geek. Those guys are huge geeks, man. They get into the weeds, and they know yeah, where the best place is to apply, why apply here, why apply there. So to have that integrated with OnX, I mean that's a power tool right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. They are incredibly knowledgeable,
yeah.
and yeah, people who know certain states or units really well. But what's crazy about the folks at Huntful is I swear they've hunted every unit twice in, the Western United States. Because, it's boots on the ground insight and, oh man, I wouldn't apply for that tag this year because here's why. And it's
Hmm.
like, or, I think you're overlooking this unit and here's why I think it's a good one for you to apply for. I actually just got off the phone with Garth Jensen there at Hunt and Fool the other day as we're looking at applying for Colorado mule deer this year.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking at hunting down there Colorado mule deer with a couple of the folks at Born and Raised Outdoors, and first time any of us hunting Colorado for mule deer. And yeah, just picking his brain for where we should apply, because a lot of time and money goes into it. We all have built points for a few years, and it's like, man, I mean, I can do my own research and stuff, and that's great. But to talk to somebody who's actually hunted those units, we feel so much more confident applying for what we're about to apply for, just knowing that somebody has hunted that and given us, sent us some photos of the unit, and
Hmm.
here's kind of what to expect, and here's how many people are going to be there. And you might be looking at something like a muzzleloader unit tag and be like, oh, there's only 50 other, 50 tags total given out. But what people don't realize is there might be a general elk spike tag, in that same unit over the same time. So you go into that unit thinking you're going to have it to yourself. And it's overrun with people. And that's the type of information that they know and can help out with.
I'll go kind of back to what we were talking about, earlier about being an efficient hunter. Is this is also another tool, another way that we can be efficient, because like that you can get to that unit, yeah, there's razors and side by sides just burning up the roads, and it's ridiculous. I mean, you had a totally different picture walking into. You think you're gonna have this premium unit, and you walk home and eat tag soup, and yeah, they could have told you well in advance that no, this isn't that kind of unit, and again, just could have made your hunt more efficient. And that's awesome. I'm glad that you talked to them about hunting Colorado this year. If it's for a mule deer, we might be hunting in the same area, because I usually run into those guys every year when I'm in Colorado. So that's
Nice.
awesome.
Nice. Are you looking at doing Colorado like mule deer this year?
Yeah, I've got a group of us that we go to Colorado every year. It's just kind of a tradition of ours
Nice.
now. We've had a lot of really good success out there. Colorado is just a fun place to hunt, anyways. I mean, it's pretty. There's a lot of opportunity. It's just a great opportunity for people.
Love it. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Very cool. What other? That's just some amazing perks to the elite package as well. Is there anything else that comes? I mean, obviously you get more states with the elite package, but are there any other perks with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the big thing is like you get 50 states, right? So wherever you're at, nationwide coverage. And that's private layers, public layers, everything you can ask for there. But some of the other things, obviously for application research, those are the three heavy hitters that we just talked about. And then on top of that, we do some discounts with, I should say discounts, or just really kind of unique insider opportunities with some companies that we work with and trust in the industry.
Hmm.
So like Vortex Optics is part of the elite. The benefits folks that get with the elite membership, it's a discount to Vortex there. Working on some cool things. We've done some pretty cool things with First Light, where we offer some free shipping, and then also provide a phone number where you can call in and kind of get VIP service questions, that type of thing. And some things are discounts, some things are maybe exclusive first looks at new products, or additional value adds there. But basically, if you go on our website and then navigate to the elite page, and find the elite benefits page there, if you scroll down, you'll see all the different companies we work with and what we offer for additional benefits for elite.
And so in the show notes for everybody that's listening and watching, I'll leave a link down in the description in the show notes to that Elite page, because it has everything on it. And I love the Vortex part of it. So that Vortex is our number one sponsor here at eHunter, and they talk very highly of you guys over there at OnX, and I know you guys have a great relationship with them, but you guys also have a lot of other great relationships and great contacts there. And like I said, I've been a user of OnX for a long time, and I've taken advantage of some of those those little perks like that. It's pretty awesome, because you're getting that stuff anyways. As hunters, those are some of the stuff that we need, and so it's nice to kind of just trickle down and get those hookups as you can. So, and for 90, $100 a year, that there's so much that comes along with that Elite membership that it's kind of like, the way that I look at it is like, why not? Why not just do it?
Yeah, for sure. And even if you're hunting the same state. So our other membership is a premium membership, and that one is for a single state. And that one is $30 a year, $29.99. But if you really look at it, like if you're going to apply even in your state, it is super helpful to have access to Hunt and Pool and to Top Route for draw odds and hunt reminders so you don't miss those deadlines. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a no-brainer just to do Elite. And really, if you look at it, $100 for the year. I mean, I just filled up my pickup the other day, and it's a half-ton pickup, and it was like $117.
Yeah.
So it's like you really look at how much money you're spending on tags and gas and equipment and gear, and it's like $100 a year to be able to know where I can and can't hunt, and to have backup plans, and be mobile and have the safety features to be able to get back to the truck if you get turned around and all that stuff. And it's might sound like a sales pitch here, but it's just one of those products. I don't care if I was working for OnX or not. There's no way that I would go without it. Like, zero chance.
That's what I said, man. This is my first. When people say what's your number one hunting tool, it seriously is a no-brainer to me. Is OnX, because, and actually you kind of hit on the head right there. It's my safety net. It's how I feel comfortable being out in the mountains by myself, or out in the woods by myself. It's how I know I can get back to my truck. It's how I know I can get back to my wife and kids. It's the most efficient way for me to hunt as well. And not to knock on camo companies. I know you talked about First Light, and that I love camo. I'm a huge fan of camo. But this program makes me more successful as a hunter than any camo does. I mean, my dad and my grandpa used to hunt in flannel and jeans, and they killed some monsters in their life. And so I can only imagine what they would have done if they had OnX at their fingertips. And so I'm with you, man. I don't mean to. I'm not employed by OnX. For those that are listening and watching, I love OnX. So cool. Well, Dylan, one other question that I wanted to talk to you about is OnX is so involved in the hunting world now, and your guys' voice is huge. I mean, you're one of the bigger companies now in the industry, which is awesome, and I'm so stoked for you guys and what you're doing. And I know you guys are doing stuff a lot of stuff outside of just mapping. But one of the things that we put articles up about and have talked to a lot of our listeners and followers about is what you guys are doing to open more public lands. And I don't know if you've had any involvement in that, but do you have any information on that and what OnX is doing?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't really work directly in that sense, but I definitely have a good grasp on, what we're doing. And, there's, like you said, we do have a lot of reach now. We've got some really good connections in the industry, and it's like, several years back, and it hasn't changed day one, but we really made an emphasis several years back, looked at it's like, what can OnX do for the greater good of hunting? And one of the areas that we really focused on is access. Obviously it comes a little bit hand in hand with maps. It makes sense, but with our knowledge and capabilities of, highlighting landlocked areas, for example, and working with different organizations, with NGOs to other outdoor industry hunting companies, looking at opportunities to, introduce a land swap or an easement or something, and really just access focus really made sense to us. So yeah, I mean, we have a whole team at OnX dedicated solely on focusing around access and bringing awareness to it and opening up access, whether it's boots on the ground or working with landowners, working with really other companies in the industry, NGOs within the industry that we have really good relationships with. One of them that we work very closely with is the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. A lot of people don't realize just how much access and habitat improvement that RMEF does, and we work with them very closely on that. And TRCP, like Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership, we work very closely with them. You've probably seen, if not, you should check it out, some of our landlocked report data that we worked on with them, where we curated our maps and looked at things and highlighted areas that were landlocked, public lands that nobody has access to get to outside of a helicopter or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. And really just bringing awareness to it and letting TRCP, go to legislation and be that voice in that setting, because that's what they're good at. Like, we are good at maps and map data and obtaining data and showing that and highlighting certain things, and that's where our expertise is. So we're trying our best to utilize our expertise for the greater good of hunters and recreationists, and have really just focused on, again, opening up public, or not even public access, just access in general, even if it's access to private land, just opening up access for more people.
I love it. And as a hunter, I do want to just share my appreciation to you and everybody at OnX for what you've done in that regard. And this was actually a question that Seth, my business partners, brought, because we have looked at the stuff that you have done with the different foundations, with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation and Theodore Roosevelt and whatnot, and just appreciate what you guys are working on. And the things that OnX is really bringing to light, I mean, like the whole corner crossing thing, it's been a huge deal. There's been people that have, gotten a little bit of trouble over it lately. But it just brings to light and brings to attention of all this public land, or even just, like kind of even what you said, even private land of places that we could access, should access, or whatever, and just aren't able to, and letting the programs and letting the organizations, I should say, work their magic and hopefully get us more access. And we put up a lot of articles that we're seeing a lot of these little wins for us as hunters, as sportsmen, as outdoors enthusiasts, of where we're getting more access, and it really kind of stems from just bringing these things to light, having the ability to pull it up on our phones and our computers and say, hey, here's this chunk of land, or there's thousands of acres here or millions of acres, I guess, in some of these cases, where we're not able to get to, but yet we're able to do it now because of companies like you all, like OnX Maps. So anyways, I just appreciate what you guys have done and continue to do with just getting us more access as hunters. We don't ask for a lot as hunters, but we sure appreciate every little win. And kind of your point, Dylan, you talked about, that what your expertise is as OnX is the mapping and whatnot. And so just bringing things to light and allowing us to use that to, on our own platforms, bringing it to light and making an impact. So no, I appreciate that. But well, man, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me. I appreciate you guys at OnX and all that you're doing. I love your system. I can't say that enough. It's something like I've said, I've used a lot. But as far as our listeners have all these questions, and I can definitely continue to put these questions together, and I'll continue to bug you about jumping on podcasts with me. But where can people go to ask questions directly to you guys?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Though I'm excited to jump on another podcast down the road and answer some more questions. So count me in for that part. But okay. We have quite a few different things. So honestly, if it's a product related question, the best thing is just to shoot us an email. We have a huge customer service team that is super knowledgeable about the product. You're going to get a real person when you call in, and real person who uses the maps themselves. So a lot of firsthand knowledge as well. Help at onxmaps.com is the email for that. And really, like, our social media channels are great places to interact, ask questions. OnX Hunt, you'll find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Pretty tough to miss. But yeah, no, we love hearing from folks. We love hearing what we can do to improve the product, or ideas, or just cool stories. We hear stories all the time of, hey, this hunt wouldn't have been possible last year without OnX. Or, we've heard some, life and death stories before, where it's like people really have gotten themselves in a tough spot and used OnX to get themselves out, or like to find their buddy, and so on and so forth. So just, yeah, we love the stories. We love hearing from our customers, and definitely reach out with questions or any comments.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I could keep you on here for hours talking about stories. I mean, I've had story after story. I had an awesome experience in Colorado this last year. We talked about that, but my experience, like, using OnX to scout, to do all the e-scouting, create plans, create backup plans. I mean, it really truly is an amazing tool. And I'm going to be a little bit selfish then. If you're cool to jump on podcasts with me, for any of you guys listening, I mean, definitely you can still email their email, that help at OnX email. But I love being able to ask questions and kind of dig into things a little bit more deeply. So if you guys have questions, put them in the comments below, or shoot me an email, or catch us on social media. I'll get Dylan on another podcast, and we'll dig into more of these. And actually, Dylan, we definitely got to get on a podcast once you guys start launching some of this other stuff, and just kind of talking through what's new.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Cool, man. Well, again, I appreciate you jumping on and spending a little bit of time with me today. Hopefully you have a good weekend and get out in the mountains.
Awesome. Appreciate the time. Appreciate the conversation, and looking forward to more. And yeah, definitely reach out, and we'll talk about spring bear hunting in Montana.
Sounds good, man. Talk soon.
Thanks.